I'm gonna take it. And then I'm gonna put Anan out of his misery. Marisol said, and then what? You gonna run off into the sunset with his wife? Your first love? Manny said, no. Then I'm gonna come home to you. But Nadia's gonna need a friend, and so am I. This is Bedtime Stories, Grownup Edition, Poetic Justice, Part 14. When we left off, Maribel had given True a strong talking to. It was time for True to prioritize her health and the safety of her unborn baby, to put her big girl panties on and find a way to put her grief aside so that she could focus on the new life growing inside of her. And Bosch had said he was going to ride with her in Big Wood's honor. And Angela had shown Saint the video of his mother Annabelle, defiant, obstinate, and unremorseful, while admitting that she not only was plotting with Amir to put herself and her son in a position where she and Amir could control the St. James family, but she'd willfully and intentionally planted the seeds that took root in Amir and led him to drop the hints and other information that Jeff needed to catch Nigel slipping. Amir had told her that if anything happened to Nigel, Catherine would be 10 toes, that she'd kept up with the lives of his children, and she'd be willing to do anything to protect the investments that she'd made in them and in the St. James family. While Jeff was a one-man show, Annabelle and Amir were pulling the strings, realizing that his mother was no damsel in distress, that she had not been hoodwinked or bamboozled. Saint tucked his grief and his pistol and headed to Florida so that he could break the news to his sisters, provide them with the support that they needed, and prepare to get back in the field. Because he and Sincere still had 4 of Nigel's mistresses who needed to be handled, and he was all in. At Samuel and Miss Charlotte's house, Samuel had agreed to head back to New York after the roundtable concluded the following day to feed Big Wood's family and friends the story that Char had concocted and support Zyla and Zora with their grief. Charlotte and Q would keep him updated on Big Wood's status and anything that they might discover related to the situation with Big Wood and True. And over at the Lopez estate, Manny and Marisol were having a staring contest. She'd just asked him if she lost her husband forever, and he hadn't answered the question. When the family's trip down memory lane had ended, Lorenzo had asked, maybe it's just me, but the only thing I heard in all of that is that the 4 of you were manipulated. As he looked at his father and Nadia and Idra and the Queen Mother, he said, no offense, Mommy, but it sounds like their parents prioritized the business over their children's own desires. They were arranging marriages like biblical times, plotting and scheming like the mafia during Prohibition, and breaking their children's hearts. From what I just heard, I should have never been born. Marisol said, Enzo. Manny said, what was supposed to happen, happened. It may not have been what we preferred, but it was what was best. Lorenzo said, for whom? For Quincy II, Big Sam, my abuela, Anan? Because Mommy looks like she hasn't slept in days. Nadia looks like dinner was late and her stomach hurts. And Bella looks like her whole life's been a lie. I don't know what they feel like, but if their feelings are a reflection of the looks on their faces, I'd say that y'all parents turned y'all lives upside down. Please tell me that you all have learned from your experiences and that you haven't continued this practice of making backdoor deals and controlling the lives of your children behind the scenes. And Manny and the Queen Mother just looked at one another, because neither of them could say that. The Queen Mother said, I don't know that I can make you understand so, but we grew up in a very different time. We grew up in a time when women didn't marry men who their fathers didn't approve of. And while we had a say, our fathers had the final say. Men didn't make decisions based on what felt good. They made decisions with their legacies in mind. And while love was nice to have, it was not the reason you got married. Just because you fell for someone when you were young, that didn't mean that that was the person you were supposed to spend the rest of your life with, especially if that was not going to further the agenda of your family for generations to come. So while Anders and I didn't know what our fathers were planning, and Nigel didn't know what his father was planning, and Manny found out later what his parents were planning, we all walked into destiny with our eyes wide open. And as difficult as all of this was to hear, I see the wisdom in my father's decisions. I know firsthand the chaos that comes with not deferring to your parents' guidance. And so do all of the other heads of the 5 families. Samuel buried your Aunt Selena because she failed to do just that. We had multiple wars with the Ramirez family because Samuel failed to do that. Stanley is going to lose his life because he failed to do that. So while we may not have known all that they had their hands in, we definitely learned the importance of guiding our children in the direction of destiny. If we didn't, Q and Angela wouldn't be married right now. Neither would Donovan and Maribel, Manny said, or Salima and Waz, and Stephanie and Corey wouldn't be about to get remarried. Idris said, the families have always been more concerned with what's good for the collective than we could ever be about any one person's heart's desires. That's how we've secured longevity and limited infighting. Manny said, it's how we solidify succession planning. Because without stable marriages and procreation, we won't have another 100 years of the notorious 5 families. Lorenzo said, so what about your feelings? You all just turned them off? And nobody said a word. So Marisol asked Manny if she'd lost her husband. After a very long silence and a staring contest, Manny said, tomorrow, I'm going to end the life of my oldest son. Not because I don't value his life, but because I know that all of this, everything that he did, is a direct result of him spending his life feeling like a fish out of water because I wasn't there, because the opportunity to be there was taken from me. Marisol said, Manny. Manny said, let me finish. I'm not upset with anyone. I said that already. The only person that I have issue with is Anan. As a man, it was his responsibility to see that my son needed help, to see that he needed me, to put everything else aside. As the man of his home, as that man's father, he was supposed to choose what was best for his son over his wife's feelings, over how he thought it would affect my life, over everything else. That's what fathers do. And he didn't do that. So I'm going to be the one to end Stanley's life so that his uncle doesn't have to do it, so that his godmother, who's been an aunt to him, doesn't have to do it. And his godbrother, who's been his cousin, doesn't have to do it, so that Angela doesn't have to have blood on her hands. I'm going to take it. And then I'm going to fly to St. Lucia and tell his parents that it's done. And then I'm going to put Anan out of his misery. Marisol said, and then what? You going to run off into the sunset with his wife? Your first love? Manny said, no. Then I'm going to come home to you and do what I've been doing. I'm going to be your husband, the father of our children, and the head of the Lopez family. But Nadia's going to need a friend, and so am I. Marisol said, and you expect for me? Manny said, I expect for you to honor the commitment that you made when you decided I'd marry you instead of her. When you stood next to me as I was coronated as the kingpin, and you vowed to be my peace, to support the Lopez organization, to remain my wife until death do us part. Or is your integrity limited to the mood you were in when you made that vow? And a tear rolled down Marisol's face because she had the answer to her initial question. She lost her husband. Meanwhile, in Denver, True and Pastor Tanya are having another heart-to-heart. Pastor Tanya said, I get it. You can't travel right now. But I don't like this, True. I don't like nothing about it. You and that man gonna be in that house alone. He's gonna be cooking for you, entertaining you. He'll be your only company, between my visits, of course. You're an emotional wreck. And he told you that he lost a woman who was pregnant with his baby and the baby. Girl, you're going to end up with a problem you can't get rid of. True said, you overreacted. And I told you. I tried to get rid of him. Pastor Tanya said, it don't matter. It's too late now. My concern is that you won't get anybody else here. I get that you cut your family back, but I thought that you and Indira were good. Hell, you named Stephanie's baby after her. True said, we are, but I haven't told her everything about my life. And she's going to have questions I can't answer, and she's going to want to talk about things that I don't want to discuss. Pastor Tanya asked, are you telling me that you didn't tell her that Big Wood is dead? True said, I haven't told anybody anything. I haven't talked to anyone. Pastor Tanya said, my God in heaven on today. Do you know that I have a church of 5,000 members? True said, yeah, and? Pastor Tanya said, Can you believe that I spend more time on the altar and in my war room praying for you than I do for any of my parishioners? I have 2 tithe-paying members in this hospital, and I've only had a few minutes to spare with them. You're going to have to make an offering or something, True. True just fell out laughing. Pastor Tanya said, I'm serious. You are wearing me out spiritually. I'm going to need you to pray for yourself, because this is ridiculous. I wonder if this is how Jesus felt when he had to tell the disciples over and over again that he wasn't going to be with them long. True said, and I wonder if this is how Mary and Martha felt when they sent word to Jesus that Lazarus was sick, and he didn't show up until the man had been dead for 4 days. Pastor Tanya said, oh, you do read your Bible. Then that means that you know what happened after that, right? True said, of course. He raised Lazarus from the dead. Pastor Tanya said, and he can raise you from the dead too, True. It's a good thing you're not dead. You're alive. Your baby is alive. And this may not have been what you planned. True said, let me stop you right there, because if one more person comes in here and tells me that God's plans are better and bigger than my plans, I'm going to turn into Peter and start cutting ears off. I don't want to hear that. His plan can be as big and as great as he wants it to be. But I'd just like a peek, a whisper, a tap on the shoulder to let me know what the plan is. Pastor Tanya said, we don't always get to know what the plan is, True. All he asks us to do is put one foot in front of the other. He asks us to let him be the light along our footpath. Because no matter how much we want to see the full magnitude of the way ahead, all we really need to see is the very next step. Sometimes God is all the solution we need to the problems that we have. And sometimes he's all we have. Pray more. Complain less. Eat your fruits and vegetables and drink your water. Comb your hair. Put on some makeup. Hell, put on one of them costumes of yours. Make yourself look like somebody else. Put on a nice outfit and go to that poetry place you like. Go for a walk, smell the roses, come to church. True chuckled and said, yeah, you couldn't wait to say the come to church part. Pastor Tanya said, because it helps. When's the last time you've been to church, True? True said, the day that Donovan preached his initial sermon. I was in the balcony in one of my disguises. Pastor Tanya said, good. Then you heard his sermon. You have an opportunity, True. Like the woman caught in the act of adultery, you and Stephanie get to choose to walk away from the life that y'all have chosen. Reinvent yourselves and create a whole new life. You already know how to do that. You've already walked away from one life. This baby is going to need your full attention. He's going to need you to try and be both mother and father. He's going to need you not to be in the line of fire. Meanwhile, in Denton, Texas, you just admitted that Big Wood is still alive. And Angela just admitted that she's the one who's been hiding True. When Q told her about Big Wood's reaction to his proposal that True be the one to nurse him back to health, Angela said, I can't even begin to imagine what could have happened, but I think I can fill in some of the blanks. Considering how Big Wood was found, I'm not 100% sure that I got this all right myself, but I think I flew True to Dallas. I think Stax picked her up from the airstrip, and I think he brought her back to the hospital. Q said, hi, what? Angela said, it's a long story. What I know for sure, though, is that True was in that room with Wood when he flatlined, and Stax got her out of that room before you returned. Q said, but he couldn't have gotten her out of the building before I returned. And when I walked in that room, Big Wood's eyes were wide open. The doctor said they'd been open since they'd brought him back. Let's go back to all the things you think and why you think they're not true. Then Angela explained True's medical acumen, the fact that there was already a plane in Denver ready and available to get True to Dallas, Stack's insistence that he'd get True back to Denver, and her suspicions that Stephanie and Selima were doing True's dirty work when the masked man snatched Amira from the Queen Mother's house. Q asked, who's with True in Denver? She there by herself? Angela said, no, apparently. Stax insisted that she have a guard. Q said, call Stax. Get him over here. Angela said, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to put him in a position where he needs to betray her trust. They have cameras in the hall of the ICU unit. And we have a hacker who's already been all up and through the hospital's security system. When Angela called Lorenzo, he said, I'm sorry, I can't help you right now. I'm on my way to New York. I need to be with Zora. But if you need to get in the security system at the hospital, just ask Michael. He knows how to do it. And Angela closed her eyes because she did not want to involve her son in any family business. Q said, Aizo, give Zora a hug for me. Be safe. Angela said, who are you talking to? You know that man hung up already. Q just chuckled because Zoe always had a one-track mind and he always gave it up straight, no chaser. So when he was done talking, he was done talking. Q said, in the morning, I'll have Michael hack into the hospital server. That's not my forte. If it was, I'd leave him out of it. Angela asked, and how do you plan to explain this to him without lying to him, without piquing his curiosity? Q said, he's too smart to be fooled, and I'm not going to try to fool him. I'm going to tell him that I think something happened in his uncle's room when I was gone, and I need to see who was there and what they did. I'm going to tell him that I don't want him going back and looking at any of the footage. Angela said, I don't think this is going to work. I might as well just call Stacks. Q said, no, you were right. There's way too much treachery going on in the 5 families right now. You shouldn't put Stacks in a position where he needs to break True's trust or make himself suspect if he does. And then Angela's phone rang. Angela said, it's Maribel. She answered the phone and Maribel said, True is fine, but she's in the hospital. When she finished updating Angela, Angela said, Maribel, let me ask you a question. Did you see True's security? Maribel said, yeah. Why? Angela said, do you happen to know his name? Maribel said, I think I heard her call him Bosch. Why? Angela said, I was just wondering. Maribel said, why do I have a feeling I wasn't supposed to tell you that? Angela said, you probably weren't, but I really needed to know, so don't beat yourself up. Maribel said, what are you not telling me, Angela? Angela said, whatever doesn't come out in the wash will come out in the rinse, Maribel. Maribel said, okay. Well, before I go, are you busy tomorrow? Donovan is going to do a talk at the inpatient treatment facility that he was in last. I'm obviously not going to be back to go with him. I think he needs support and he has way too much pride to ask for it. Can you go with him? And if not, can you ask Q if he can go? And Angela almost dropped the phone. When she recovered, she asked, what time is he going? At the same time, in the driveway of the Lopez estate, the Queen Mother had just finished telling Idra, thank you. Thank you for choosing me, for choosing what you believed was best for me. If you would have made a different choice, I'm sure I would have become a mother, but I wouldn't have known the joy of being the mother of Quincy Anders, St. James IV, Donovan, Anya Kay, and Chance. I would have never known what it was to be loved by a gentle, peaceful, compromising, God-fearing man. I would have never known that a normal life was even possible. I wish that I hadn't spent the whole time that I had with Andy. And Idra didn't miss that the Queen Mother didn't call him my Andy. She said, wondering what could have been, what should have been, dreaming about being the queen pin. I wish I spent more of my time enjoying just being a wife and a mother. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it, but it was always tainted. I was always resentful. I hate that you never found a wife, a woman who you could spend your life with, that you didn't have children. I hate that we've wasted so much time, that I've been so full of pride. And you're right. I need to get out in front of these secrets. Manny set the example tonight. And as soon as we're done with the round table tomorrow, I'm going to sit my children down. And I'm going to confess all. I know I got some damn nerve, but I need your support. I need you not to leave as soon as the round table concludes tomorrow. Idris said Nadia's going to need support. The Queen Mother said, I think she's going to have it. You know Manny. He does not like for anyone to take anything from him. Before there was a Marisol or an Anan, Nadia was his. Idris said, then I need to go back and talk to him. Bella said, don't waste your breath. I already tried. And if he won't listen to me, you know he is not going to listen to you. Idris said, you got a point there. The Queen Mother said, you and I have a lot to discuss. And if you're open to discussing it, please don't leave. I've spent my whole life holding everybody else down, being the strong one. When I open Pandora's box tomorrow, I'm going to need somebody to be strong for me.